Oh, man. Yeah. Just so you know, sometimes I really don't feel like it. That's okay. Yeah, all because I made a choice. Which seemed like a wise choice when I was making it. So question, what is higher wisdom? So just in general terms, it's the moments of your life where you feel really smart. Where you feel like you know what's going on. And then you feel like kind of elevated, kind of smart ass, right? It's like these moments when somebody asks you a question and suddenly, bam, the answer is right there. And you didn't think about it. It just shot out without thinking about it, right? So sometimes, I would pick up a bow and an arrow. And despite the fact that I never really did that in my life, I just hit bullseye. And I had it sometimes with playing darts, that I was playing and I was fairly good and I thought, oh, nice. And then I kept playing it. And the more I played, the worse I got. And then I stopped doing it because I started to hate it. Because I thought, well, that's kind of shit. Well, that's how I feel about playing chess at the moment. It's incredibly hard for me to win in chess because I'm thinking too much. And that brings me back to higher wisdom. Right? So higher wisdom, in a sense, is connecting with yourself and with the sea of information that surrounds you at all times. So, for instance, at one point in my life, I said, I don't want to look up stuff on the internet anymore. If I have a question, I'm going to sit with that question and I'm going to attract the answer to that question into my life. And that's when I said to you, right, I don't really know what voice is talking to me. I just know that I'm hearing voices. So when I asked myself the question, I want to know what I came here to do, yeah? Or I want to know what I want to do. And you cannot look that up on the internet. What do I want to do? There's nothing. It's just like zip, yeah? So you basically don't know your own zip code. You don't know where you're coming from, and you don't know where you're supposed to go. Am I supposed to be here now? Why can't I be somewhere else? So when I asked the question, it wasn't that I just asked it one day, but as soon as I had the question, I couldn't let go of it. So I kept asking the question, and then I was presented with answers. I was kind of, I always say, obsessed with the question. So it's possible that the question was given to me by connecting with this kind of sense of self and higher wisdom. It's like looking at yourself from the perspective of the observer. Because higher wisdom, what does that mean? It means that it's like wisdom from higher than where you are, possibly. And that means you can look at yourself from a perspective that's higher than the average kind of life scenario. And that's this kind of eagle's perspective. So the eagle sees the whole picture and it can tell you, this is what you must do. Right? And then, I'm not even talking about all this kind of spirit animals and stuff. I think that's for later. But generally, I'm trying, I don't look up these things. What is higher wisdom? I sure did at one point, but at the moment, how I want to engage with myself is to look for answers inside of me. Because that gives me something to do. right? If I want to know what higher wisdom is, and I just look it up on the internet, and then I get an answer. Higher wisdom is blah, blah, blah. Crown chakra, consciousness, whatever. But then, that's somebody else's words. That's not my word, choice, because it's not connected to any experiences or feelings, emotions, or, a series of insights. So generally how it works with me is, so it all started already fairly early in life that I said, this cannot be how life is supposed to be, that everybody's so miserable. And I was miserable, everybody else was miserable, but I felt more about myself that I was miserable because I always had these states of ups and downs and ups and downs. It was like constantly. And I was trying to outbalance that, and I was trying to feel like this is how it's supposed to be. But then I realized, I was trying to find that place in myself. And sometimes I had it and then it was gone. And maybe it was higher wisdom that led me to ask the question, what do I really want? But the true reason why I asked that is because I had already done so many things. I had already tried so many things in my life, and all of them failed. Right? I was dumped, I was punched in the face, I was, called names, I was judged. I was pulled off the road by the police. I had to ask people for money because I just had none. So something was going very wrong in my life. And so something had to change. And so I asked the question, what do I want? And then the answer came, but it didn't come right away. I had to do something for that. And my feeling guided me to that answer. So I kept walking and I kept chasing. And then it came, write a book about fear. Okay, I've already said that. But then I had to write it. So I realized, what do you mean? I mean, I can't just write a book about fear. Right? And then ideas came. I cannot say where these ideas come from. I would say that's like higher wisdom stuff. That's like trust. Trusting that you will know what to do when you need to do it. All you have to do then is listen and then do it. And that's why what I do most of my day is actually listening to what my next move is. And that's why I also keep practicing chess, because that might teach me something about that. Because one thing I've learned is, right, there are certain things you may get right, the first time you do it. But if you really want to get it right every time, right? If you want to know I can do this, you have to practice. But first you have to figure out what you want to do. And when you know, oh, that's what I want to do, you can practice that. And so I asked the question, I got an answer. Oh, that's what I want to do right now. I didn't know that. I want to write a book about fear. I mean, that's not how I engaged with it. It was more like, holy shit. I always said, I'm supposed to do this now? But it's actually not what I was supposed to do. It was what I wanted to do. Because writing a book about fear helped me to understand fear. But it's really hard to say who this is coming from. Because who's talking to me? Is this me? But who's talking now then? And who's the voice in my head? Right? And the only way you can understand that, I think, is if you look at it like this. You see, it's very complicated. And I don't know if, what is divinity, what is divine. Yeah, maybe for something else. Maybe this episode will be a bit longer, or this recording, but think about it. I don't know what I'm supposed to believe. Am I a soul? Am I some kind of animal? But animals don't ask these kinds of questions. At least I don't think so. Well, at least they don't really communicate these questions. But what does a dog do when the dog is lying around doing nothing? Well, maybe he's thinking about the world. Only maybe the body of a dog cannot speak. But it is us that label the dog as a dog. Maybe it's not a dog at all. Maybe it's something completely different. Right? Because if we think the dog is a dog, we usually also think that it is beneath us. While in terms of like social identity and stuff, they're very smart beings. And that's why instead of labeling yourself as a human being, or labeling yourself as whatever, I think it's much better to just say, I'm a being. But what does that all mean? Sometimes I get a sense of something. And then I hear other people talking about soul contracts and karma and reincarnation. And sometimes I think that's all bullshit. Some people believe that we all came here and that we made contracts beforehand. Oh, this is gonna be my wife and this is gonna be like that. I think that's bullshit as well. But I don't know, right? Maybe it is just the same thing over and over again, like in Hancock, right? Maybe it's like that. That some people, they're just kind of destined to be together. And they always reincarnate, but in a different shape. And sometimes they meet, sometimes they don't meet. I don't really know. Maybe we do exist as male and female beings. And maybe I'm always the male one, and somebody's always the female one. It's really hard to say these kinds of things. And I can try thinking about these, but it's also really far away. So you can use your mind and try to figure out what's it all about and where we come from, but ultimately, that isn't really going to help you in your life. And that's where I see a lot of people that are really stuck on all this kind of angel stuff and universe and galaxies and dimensions. Well, the thing is, I have no idea what's going on. This life is really strange. All I know is how I feel right now. And in order to know what I feel, I sometimes, have to ask a question. What am I missing? And then sometimes a voice comes. But for that, to hear the voice, I had to learn how to quiet down. And that means I needed silence. And that means I had to sit in my room with nothing on. No music, no videos, no movies, no nothing. No audiobooks, no nothing. No reading, no nothing. And then when I would get a bit bored, this voice comes. And it's really strange, because you can say that's higher wisdom, but what is it truly? You see, some people think, and that's what I sometimes think or believe as well, or feel like, that I came here to learn something. But then the question is, why? Why did I come here to learn anything? What is this all about? And the truth is, in the end, nobody knows anything. You will never truly know what it's all about. But you can accept it. You can say, I accept that it's the way it is, and it's really strange, and it's really weird, and it's somewhat beautiful, but it's also fucked up. That's just a state of acceptance, and my room is really messy, but I also accept that it's the way it is, and I really don't like cleaning at the moment, because I'm really busy with other things. And I'm cleansing, and you can hear it a bit on my nose, doing rapé. It's all kinds of emotions coming out of me. And then I can keep asking, but why are these emotions coming out of me? Well, that's not higher wisdom, that's just stupidity. Because, acceptance means, okay, it is like that. I'm cleansing at the moment, So the only thing I have to ask myself is what to do next. And now I just got the idea, oh, I could record The Hobbit as an audiobook. And then I imagined myself standing there recording this, and I thought, why the fuck would I do that? Like, this book is outdated. Like, it's old. But I want to do something new. And the newest thing that I know is me. Like, that I know, like, that I truly know. Only I don't really know myself, but I know how I feel right now. And I feel like sitting here and talking about stuff. But that is also weird. Then you can ask yourself, but why do I do this at all? Right? Why? Like, what being am I? Am I like some kind of god? Yeah. So, ultimately, I believe nobody really knows what's going on. But that's not really true. I think, and that's some higher wisdom for you, I think you know what's going on, only you cannot express it with words. Right? There's this scene in that movie Darjeeling Unlimited where they say, why don't we express it without words? Something like that. And then they just look at each other. Like, I can express myself much better if I don't talk. Because if I go around talking, people start lumping all kinds of opinions onto the words that I use, and then they get like overly sensitive. You know, sometimes it's better if I say nothing. And then people are overly sensitive as well. So what does that show you? People are overly sensitive. But what are people? Like, what is this shit show? Yeah? This beautiful mixture of whatever. And, I mean, that's something I can try to figure out by gathering information. By looking at how I feel, how I see myself, and how that changes over time. If I start making different choices and decisions, how do I feel then? But one thing that is for certain is that the way I feel about myself changed a great deal when I started making different choices. When I started going out more and being barefoot, because then I started to get a better feeling of who I actually am. Yeah, and I started to realize more and more, oh, that's how I am. I'm actually quite strong. You know, I'm actually deep down, I'm quite nice. Yeah? But I have to find out these things. And so maybe it is that you're some kind of soul or some kind of being. And maybe you were in some kind of deep slumber. And maybe you were sent here as a soul to do something. And maybe there are things like contracts and all kinds of stuff. But that's all too high for me. Right? Sometimes I really know these things. You know, sometimes I was in some kind of ayahuasca ceremony and I had some really like higher wisdom stuff. Like, whoa, this is, you know, to that person, I'm in that relation. And then there's like, oh, you start recognizing people, you start recognizing places or something. And in that moment, you just know, yeah? You just know. It's all so clear and all so plain, and you think, oh yeah, absolutely, that's it. Yeah, but when you leave that place, maybe that feeling, you will have it for 1 day or 2 days, and then it's gone. But where did it go? Well, it's always there, but now you have to work to get to it. And that means, that's like your map. Oh, so to get to my true potential, I have to work myself to this kind of higher wisdom. Because it's something you actually have to earn. You can't just have that. You know, some people try to just take it, you know, by having cocaine all the time, but that stuff just turns you into an asshole. Because you're lazy. You don't want to work for this. I want to work for this feeling. And I work my butt off because I want to stay knowing. Because that's how I feel at the moment, you know. Somebody gave me a straw, and in that sense I'm holding on to it. Because I say, you know, I'm gonna manage. And that's also the other thing, not just for myself, but also I've been shown a life that I find is worth fighting for. And in order to fight for that life, that feels really good, like the vision feels really good, I have to keep fighting. And for that, I have to get to that place of higher wisdom where I'm the observer, the higher self, where I actually stand above this melodrama of the world, of people's emotions and fear and all that kind of stuff. And so if you look at a chart where humans are shown with their chakras, then it shows it basically. And some people have told me about that they felt like these kind of chakras pulsating. And so, they say that also in Avatar, that you have to cleanse. There's this episode about Guru Pachik or something. And if you go to one of, it's always in my YouTube channel, in the description of the video that says, if you want to know what a chakra is. That explains it very well. So you have 7 major centers, but that's just the 7 major centers. And the lowest one is the root chakra. That's where all the fear is. That's where most people are stuck. Fear and anger and stuff like this. Basic instincts, If you see other beings as animals, it's just because you are like that. That's your state of awareness. But it's not the animal state of awareness. It's just your state of awareness. Because animals aren't there at all. They're already higher in that sense. Animals are actually higher beings. And then you come to the place where it's said, it's like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th is the heart, and then 5th is throat. The other one is like 3 is solar plexus, 2 is like navel chakra, and then 6 is the 3rd eye, and then 7 is the crown chakra. But then also you have 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and stuff. There's like, what that tells you is that who you are doesn't end with your body. It goes beyond that. Your body is just something where you can center. That doesn't make it any easier to understand who you are or what you're doing here. But at least it gives you something to cling to in that sense, because that's always where you can come back to, your body. And I know that the perception of myself certainly has changed. I also realized that when my body was full of toxins and really weak, I felt also really weak. Sometimes I feel like I'm really fucked. And I don't get that. Like, I don't know why my eyes are hurting so much. I don't know why my back is hurting so much. There are so many things that are so weird. But I know is that energy must flow. And the reason my eyes are hurting is because they have to process a lot of stuff. And so I have to keep them stretched. Because I'm using them also for a lot of things. And so higher wisdom is the stuff that comes to you in states of meditation or psychedelic experience or states of like silence, but also by asking questions. So if you really want to know how to cook, then you also have to start cooking. I know how to cook because I wanted to know how to cook, because it's very important to know how to cook. And you can use higher wisdom to get new insights on what to eat, right? So sometimes I get this insight, do an inorganic sulfur cleanse now. I don't say why. In a sense, I know why, but it's just about, okay, do it. Because when higher wisdom tells you, write a book about fear, you just fucking do that. You don't do it because I told you, because I've already wrote it, so you can just read that. But if you have a calling, and that's what I mean, don't just do what other people did, but you can. You can write a book about fear. Nobody's gonna stop you. Like, knock yourself out. But don't cling to the idea that people are going to buy it, because that's a bitch. You see how long it took me to get anywhere close to having people interested in what I'm doing. But that's only because I was really resolute. I wanted to do this because my higher wisdom was guiding me there, but also because I wanted it. I took responsibility for the life that I had been shown, and that's a major challenge, if you know what I mean. And so I just keep doing the things that I feel like, but also because I was told to do it in a sense, maybe by myself, right? So it could be, it might be that we have like two different minds, or it's just because I'm thinking all the time that I think I know who I am, but the only times that I actually truly know who I am is if I don't think. And some people say that the mind, like when you think, it's like the animal mind, and you have to leave that behind. Because when you're really in higher wisdom, you don't think about it, you just do, because you know